Deep in the heart of the ebonywood forest, where twisted branches clawed at the sky and shadows danced like ancient spirits, lived a sorceress named Soline. Her cottage, perched atop a hill draped in wild moss, was surrounded by whispers that grew into fearful tales told by villagers in the nearby town of Elmstead. To them, Soline was a force of chaos. They'd seen storms brew from cloudless skies when her fury rose, trees uprooted as if by invisible hands, and the river reversing its course without warning. "Cursed," they muttered, crossing themselves in prayer whenever they felt the forest close in around them. What they didn't know was that Soline buried her magic beneath layers of isolation, for them and for the forest. When hunters tore through the woods, setting traps and cutting down ancient oaks, Soline didn't hesitate. She summoned rust to creep over axes, vines to coil around traps, and dense mist to lead trespassers astray. When poachers stole away fawns and pheasants, Soline sent storms screaming through the trees, scattering their loot and stalling their escape. Her power was a mirror of the forest itself, fierce, unyielding, and alive. But Soline's solitude was broken one crisp autumn evening when a boy stumbled into the depth of the woods. Aria, small, frantic, and fleeing from bandits, staggered through thickets until he collapsed at the sorceress's door. His clothes were torn, his arms stained with blood. Trembling as he knocked, expecting to meet his doom if she answered, Aria had no other choice. The door creaked open. Soline stood tall against the firelight, her ash-grey cloak billowing behind her, like shadows in the wind. But her sharp eyes softened when they fell on the boy. Rather than cast him away or curse him for trespassing, Soline knelt to place a hand over his wound. Warmth coursed through Aria's skin as Soline whispered an incantation. The pain ebbed, and the blood stopped flowing. She fed him warm stew by the hearth, and listened as he spoke of his ordeal, nodding with quiet understanding. For a boy who had been running from one horror, he was astonished to find comfort in the thing he'd been taught to fear most. When his strength returned, Aria left the forest, but not alone. He returned to the village with stories of Soline's kindness. At first, his words fell on deaf ears. Fear had been their anchor for so long, what child could be believed? But when Soline arrived, bearing gifts, forest herbs that cured ailments, knowledge that protected crops from infestation, their skepticism began to thaw. The villagers, one by one, watched her pull flowers from barren soil with a gentle spell or cradle fallen sparrows until they took wing again. Slowly, whispers turned from terror to awe. Months passed. Soline grew into her role as a bridge between the village and the woods, teaching the people how to live in harmony with the land rather than in spite of it. And the people, once quick to slam shut their shutters at the mere mention of her name, began to embrace her as their savior. For Soline, it wasn't power that redeemed her, it was being understood. And for the villagers, it wasn't magic that changed their hearts, it was seeing the humanity behind the mystery. The forest sang in twilight, and Soline walked beneath its canopy, not as a sorceress people feared, but as the guardian they had come to trust.